Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum. It is my pleasure, indeed my honor, to welcome you to Georgetown University. We are delighted today to welcome Her Excellency President Atifete Jahjaga for her presentation on the context of interreligious understanding in Kosovo and around the world. We're also very glad Ambassador Jahjaga is joining us as well. Please welcome them. On behalf of President Jack DeJoya, welcome to Georgetown University. My name is Imam Yahya Hendi, and I am the Director of Muslim Life with the Office of Campus Ministry here at Georgetown University. After President Atifete makes her remarks, I will join her for a question and answer session, after which we will open it for an audience participation with the questions and answers. I would also now like to make a special welcome to the new president of Georgetown University Student Association. I hope she's here. Maybe she's not. I don't see her. Noshi Khan, who is, by the way, the first Muslim student to serve as GASA president. And to have a Muslim assume such a position at a Catholic university in Washington, D.C., for me speaks loud of who we are at Georgetown and for our country and what we all need to do as people of different religious communities. It is now my honor and a pleasure to introduce to you Khadija Mahmoud, who will introduce the president. Khadija is a junior in the School of Foreign Service and serves as the president of the MSA, Muslim Students Association. Khadija.
On behalf of the Georgetown Muslim Students Association, the Office of Muslim Life, and the entire university community, I am delighted to welcome you all to this fruitful discussion examining the context of achieving interreligious understanding in Kosovo and worldwide. My name is Khadija Mahmoud, and I'm the president of the Georgetown University's Muslim Student Association. It is an honor to stand before you all today in welcoming Her Excellency, Madam President Atifete Jahjaga, to Georgetown University. The Muslim Student Association at Georgetown is a testament of the university's commitment to interreligious understanding and community and diversity. As a student faith-based organization, we are at the forefront in engaging with the larger Georgetown community in interfaith dialogue, service projects, and social justice initiatives. This past semester, the Office of Muslim Life addressed the importance of empowering women to empower our ummah. Indeed, Muslim women across the globe have made unprecedented contributions to Islamic scholarship, academia, peacekeeping, and interreligious understanding. On April 7, 2011, Her Excellency, Madam President Jahjaga, became the first female and nonpartisan president of Kosovo, joining the ranks of one of the world's few female leaders of Muslim-majority countries. She has also become the first woman to serve as a head of state in the Balkans region, in addition to being one of the world's youngest political leaders. Since entering office, she has committed herself to the critical task of rebuilding and strengthening the political institutions of Kosovo. Prior to her presidency, she served as the Deputy General Director of the Police of Kosovo, in addition to several key positions in the implementation of law and order. Under her leadership, Kosovo has become an international champion for interreligious dialogue and understanding. Interfaith Kosovo is indicative of the government of Kosovo's commitment to interfaith dialogue and peaceful coexistence. The civil society initiative serves as a model for an innovative approach to interreligious understanding both domestically and internationally. Interfaith Kosovo organizes an annual conference inviting various faith leaders and scholars to participate in a series of panels aimed at encouraging social unity amongst diverse religious groups. In her address to the conference attendees in May 2014, Madam President Jahjaga noted the critical role faith plays in influencing political engagement and shaping meaningful democracy. I hope you all will join me in extending a warm welcome to Madam President Jahjaga.
In talking to the President, and she just reminded me to take this moment asking all of us to have a moment of silence, praying for the victims of violence across the world, whether in Brussels or Turkey or different places in Africa or the Middle East or Europe. So let us take that moment of silence. Please be seated, Madam President.
Good morning to everyone, dear Imam Hendi, distinguished students, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be back at the Georgetown University to discuss what is shaping up to be one of the main generational challenges of this century, namely how we define the role of the religion or how we accommodate religion or religions in our pluralistic democracies. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank you all for attending and Imam Hendi for extending me the invitation to speak at this forum and to be back at the Georgetown. Many women, decision makers who have shaped the debates of our time and for whom I have profound respect, have walked through the halls, and it's always great to follow the footsteps of these trailblazers. I had the pleasure to meet Imam Hendi in his visit to Kosovo last year, when we were able to exchange our thoughts and views about what we are trying to do in Kosovo and the numerous challenges that we do face. And I'm grateful I was able to describe to him how Europe's youngest country, Kosovo, is making leaps in recovering, in overcoming, in moving forward. Of course, the journey to recovery, to normalcy, to what Kosovo represents today has been complex. As I have often described, we are a society that at the end of the last century lived through, resisted through civil disobedience, and eventually fought a despicable repression by Serbia's regime of the time, a repression and war that left deep scars in our society. With the help of many democratic countries that came to the rescue of the people of Kosovo, we have spent these 2 past decades in rebuilding the ties between different ethnicities, different religious institutions, and we have worked hard to try and build trust, the key component to reconciliation and an assurance that the events of the 1990s will never revisit Balkans again. In charting our path forward, we have only had to look back into our long tradition of the peaceful and harmonious coexistence between different religions. Kosovo is a home to 90% Albanian population that is predominantly Muslim, the majority of whom are secular and the rest mostly adherents of the Hanafi tradition, dating back to convergence during the conquest of the Ottoman Empire in the 15th century. We also have a Sufi presence with their mystic traditions, possibly dating back to the 13th century, surviving to this date in Kosovo, to a texture that we consider as a valuable cultural heritage. Kosovo has some of the most important Serb Orthodox churches, where the Serbian community, about 5% of the country's population, worships. We have also a very small but vibrant Roman Catholic community. And we are very, very proud to have given the Catholic Church its most recent saint, Mother Teresa, the nun of Albanian descent, who took her vows many years ago in a small, secluded church known best for its Black Madonna in eastern Kosovo. We do not have to search long and hard to find the important traces of this coexistence throughout towns and villages in Kosovo. They are deeply ingrained in the architecture of the cities that fall along traditional trading routes. Like a few other places in the world, in Kosovo we have churches, Roman Catholic and Serb Orthodox, and mosques share the same courtyard. The mixture of bell tolls and muezzins call to prayer, of minarets and crosses piercing the skies, makes Kosovo not only rich in tradition, but creates a model of tolerance that in today's world of much intolerance sticks out. There were times when this religious coexistence that I just described has been severely tested, especially during the breakup of Yugoslavia, of which Kosovo was a part of. In the Yugoslav times, immediately after the World War II, when we were ruled by the communism, the clergy were prosecuted. Mosques, often the most historic ones, were razed to the ground, and the religion was largely pushed out of the public domain. Eventually, the socialist brand of the communism allowed at the end of the 20th century in Yugoslavia loosen up its grip on places of worship. Unlike in neighboring Albania, where a communist dictatorship turned mosques and churches into trash collection points, in Kosovo during the 70s and 80s, mosques and churches were allowed to exist upon the condition that religion had no place in the communist society that was being forged. They were, however, accorded very little care, and many were left to decay. In the 1990s, when Yugoslavia began to fall, many authors began to describe the war along the lines of Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations, where wars occur at the fault line of civilizations, which are conflated with cultures, and where cultures equal religions. Yet, what we witnessed on the ground instead was how the tide of the nationalism that corresponded to ethnic memes found its match in the religion. We witnessed dormant nationalism accentuate religious identity, and in places where those identities were blended and coexistence was more prevalent, the consequences were the harshest. This meant that objects of worship, which had survived the centuries because of the mutual respect and preservation accorded to them by the mixed communities that surrounded them, were attacked, not because of the God that was worshipped in them, but because nationalistic agenda had made the markers of the opposing identities now enmeshed in deep animosities over territorial claims. For example, during the Milosevic repression, dozen churches were built in Albanian-majority Kosovo as part of his colonization and assimilation efforts. Very little protection and preservation was offered to Kosovo's Islamic heritage. During the war, about 40% of Kosovo's 560 mosques, Islamic libraries, and other places of cultural and religious significance were damaged or destroyed by the Serbian forces in target campaign of the ethnic cleansing. After the war, Albanian mobs destroyed dozens of Serbian Orthodox churches in an apparent attempt to weaken the bonds of the Serbian community to Kosovo. It was a painful episode of Kosovo's long history in which, for the most part, people of different ethnicities and religions preserved that they believed was their common heritage, raising above the temptation to follow the political agendas that tore these communities apart and exploit the differences between them. Since we have managed to turn a new page in Kosovo, by and large, attacks on religious monuments and desecration of holy sites and objects of worship have ceased. And the occasions when they do occur, they are widely condemned and perpetrators are found and brought to justice. As leaders of Kosovo, we have approached this task of rebuilding our bonds with a view that our coexistence is much longer than our period of disagreement. That peace and stability cannot be built under threats and duress, that economic prosperity and the values and ideals of democracy may not come to life without cessation of animosities. That we will not roll back on the rights and freedoms that at one time were denied to us. One of our main commitments has been to restore Kosovo as a secular state, to separate clearly and firmly the state from the matters of the religion. Our starting point has been our constitution. We have drafted and approved a constitution that promotes the unfettered practice of religion and gives equal treatment to all religions in Kosovo and their followers. We, of course, in our secular life, also allow for the category of non-believers because we regard religion as an important part of people's identity, but also as an individual choice. In large part, through this commitment to separate religion from matters of state, we want to protect religions and their objects of cult from politics so that they never again are used to stoke up ethnic divisions. Despite our bitter recent past as the ethnic majority in Kosovo, we have an obligation to preserve the Serb Orthodox churches and the way of life of our fellow Serbs. To them, these monuments are a focal point of their identity and they are important venues of their perseverance. We draw our legitimacy as a state of equal citizens in how we treat our minorities, and we are determined to interrupt the senseless cycle of violence that has kept a whole generation, my generation included, socially excluded and in isolation. That is why, if you take a look at Kosovo's constitution today, it is unique in that we provide much autonomy to the Serbian Orthodox Church and the preservation of the holy sites. Following the 2004 riots that targeted these monuments of cult, Kosovo's government paid for all the reconstruction of the damaged objects and jailed the culprits. Needless to say, there is a lot of pent-up anger in our society about the past, about the many perpetrators that have committed atrocious crimes in the name of ethnicity and religion, who have never faced justice, repented, or apologized. But we must resist the urge to get even. We must look forward and set the foundations of a meaningful interfaith dialogue so that these events of our past do not revisit us again in the future. And I'm glad to say that Kosovo's clergy have understood their role well by taking the lead to initiate this important discussion. As we move forward, Kosovo is challenged with how it chooses to interpret its past for the future generation. Kosovo must never become a place where religious monuments are razed to the ground. But being objects of cult should not provide an escape from the narrative of how they came to be, specifically those sites that have been erected during the Serbian repression. If we choose to view them solely as places of sanctity, I am afraid that we will be telling just a part of the story. The way that I hope my fellow citizens will choose is to preserve and inform the future generation of the context that surrounds these monuments akin to the recent debate in this society about the role of major historical figures and slavery. It is only that way that we will learn from the mistakes of the past. Another big challenge for our small country is to preserve our unique brand of Islam that is a product of many centuries of coexistence with other religious traditions. Unfortunately, Kosovo has not been spared of the global resurrection of religious currents that seeks to exploit ethnic strife to further religious ambitions, namely to use religion to point out existing ethnic division as godlessness. We see signs of external, more fundamentalist and intolerant interpretation of Islam, which are foreign to Kosovo, but which have found a way into our country. And there is only one answer to protect our societies from this, and that is education and only education. Dear students, my dear friends, this is the humble story of Kosovo. As you can derive from my speech here today, we haven't figured it all out, but we have made leaps forward. For one, we have extended our table and have added more chairs to it to include all those that have kept alive the traditions and the beautiful character of our society. I thank you all for being here today and for allowing me to share these thoughts with you. Thank you so much. Do I sit there next to I think I should sit next to my flag.
Well, that was wonderful.
Usually we go by flag.
We'll go with the flag.
That's why we find our seats.
You know, this is rather amazing. You know, the story of Kosovo that you tell, the story of the people, the resilience, the amazing commitment that even I saw when I was in Kosovo last year, within the men, the women, the clergy, the politicians, and in you, you know, a young politician, amazing leader who has been able to do things that many have not been able to. I have 2 questions for you. Then after that, we'll open the door for the questions and answers. Islam. Now we are asked in America every day, can Islam as a religion exist or coexist with other religions?
Absolutely, yes. And we have an excellent examples throughout the world. And the best example is our country, is Kosovo, that the Islam has been coexisting not only in this last 16 years since the end of the war, not in the last 2 decades, but for the decades in the world and for the centuries of the world. Because we have so much as the communities, as ethnicities, as religious in general, that we can share with each other. And that makes the beauty of every country today.
Then I guess the question is, why is this fear of Islam that you see on TV?
Everything what we see today that they're trying to put in the side or the argument of the Islam, we do know that that doesn't speak about the Islam and has to be a pure distinction between the criminal action, between the terrorist action, from what really the religions and the faith says in general, no matter is it the Islam or it is the Catholic or other religions.
Earlier this year, when we started the year, as Khadija said, we decided that our theme of programs for the year will be, in order to empower our community, our ummah, our world Muslim community, we need to empower women.
Yes.
So, and this is a religious requirement, I believe. I think Islam wants us to empower women. I think society wants us to empower women. We cannot move forward without empowering women. For sure, you are a manifestation of that empowerment. We have so many men and women sitting in the room. What would you tell us about how do we do it, and what do we need to do to empower women to become more politically active, socially active, and to be able to stand by the men in the world?
Imam Hendi, there is no religion in the world that requires to put women aside and not to invest in the women. And the key to everything what you said is, I go back to my speech, is the education, And for these 5 years being in the office as the President of Kosovo, despite of my roles and responsibilities, which are the constitutional responsibilities for myself, I have paid a special attention and a lot of time on empowering the role of the women within our society. Because I am a strong believer that when you invest in the women, you do not only invest in an individual. You invest in an individual, you invest in the family, you invest in the children, you invest in the society, and by automatism, you invest in the future of the country. So again, goes to the education, and education more for the women.
So I guess you are talking about the need to have women be in the forefront, in colleges, in campuses, learning and teaching.
True.
The other segment of our community we need to empower is youth, young men and women. What have you done in Kosovo to empower young men and women, and what needs to be done worldwide to empower youth?
Actually, Kosovo is unique in many regards, and since the end of the war, we as a country has done a continuous process of the transition and transformation, because as you know, Imam Hendi, because we had this discussion when you were in Pristina last year, that 16 years ago we have inherited a totally destroyed country, not only from its infrastructure, but also from the loss of the lives of the people. Over tens of thousands of people has been killed and massacred. Over 20,000 women, they have been victims of the sexual violence or raped during the wartime as a tool of war. And still, over 16 years after the end of the war, we have about 1,700 people still missing in different massive graves in the territory of Serbia and in Kosovo. And Kosovo, has about 60% of the population which is under the age of the 30. And we as the countries, no matter Kosovo as a young country, but every country around the world, we have to pay a special attention of opening more opportunities for our young people so that they will see their future within the country, and we use them as an added value for our country and for their further integration. And again goes back to into their education, into opening the perspective for the jobs, for improving their welfare. So it's an ongoing challenge for my country. And for these past 5 years in my office, I had a special focus on empowering the women, but at the same time empowering the young people, because that is the only way that we have the sustainable progress for our country and our way forward.
Great. Where do you see Kosovo, let's say, in 10 years from now?
Actually, I would say even before 10 years, because I have been a strong lobbyist, and I have been fighting hard inside of Kosovo, but also internationally, that Kosovo should get its right place and deserved place, not regionally, but also into the international family. And our goal is the EU integration, or Euro-Atlantic integration, as the only alternative, not only for Kosovo, but also for all of the regional countries that we are aspiring in the southeastern part of Europe, or as sometimes they call it, the Western Balkans, as the only alternative for all of our countries. And I see that as the only goal, as in the only alternative for our country, and that enjoys the largest highest percentage of the trust, not only among all political spectrum in our country, but among all of the ethnic groups in our country. That is the only agenda that we need to follow.
Under the concept of social justice and political justice, we empower women and youth. There's another aspect of justice that many people don't even address, environmental justice. What has Kosovo done to empower the country when it comes to the environment?
Well, for us has been because, again, 16 years back, we have came out of the terrible war. Yeah. And it has been unimaginable process for all of us as the people of Kosovo, as the institutions of Kosovo, as the international community led, and which we are grateful for the strong ally and the friendship that we have with the United States and the people of America that have been working together with us on this past 16 years. And Kosovo has known internationally that is a success story of the huge partnership between the people of Kosovo, international community, and the institutions of Kosovo. And we were trying to do everything at the same time within those 16 years. And we have moved quite a lot. We have made major leaps forward, but still we have a lot of work to do in the coming years, even in the regards that you are mentioning.
And by the way, I need to say this. I'm telling you, I have been all over the world, but Kosovo is a special country. Amazing landscape, beautiful mountains and valleys. You need to go, you know. She did not pay me to say this, I promise you. You know, it's a country where you would enjoy just having a quiet time away from the craziness world of numbers and statistics. So it is an amazing landscape that can easily be used to contribute to environmental justice. I have two issues.
And the cultural warmth of the welcome of the people is beyond everything.
Yes, yes. The culture,
you have
the
to
people.
Experience that.
Yes, and the food.
Okay, I will not say about that.
It's amazing culture, indeed. You will feel at home, regardless of who you are, regardless of how you think, regardless of what religion, you would feel at home in Kosovo. Two questions, then we'll move to the audience. Question number one is, when people talk about terrorism, they talk about recruitment of young men and women, especially men, to terrorism. What can be done to help de-radicalize these young men and help them become a part of the solution and the peace building rather than becoming easy target for recruitment for terrorism?
Yeah. Imam Hendi, thank you so much for raising this, because neither Kosovo, neither any country around the world could be immune towards this global threat and a global phenomena, which is not knowing the borders and is not knowing the sizes of the country. And even Kosovo had some difficulties in this last few years, particularly in this last 4 years, with the foreign fighters, mainly young boys and girls leaving from Kosovo, to go in and join the ISIS or al-Nusra groups within the Syria and Iraq. And which we have been uncompromising in our approach as the country, responding to these young boys and girls who has been leaving to the country, where last year large percentage of them has been arrested by an outstanding good work of the police organization and intelligence organization in our country. Beginning of last year, we have passed a law in the Parliament of Kosovo which foresees the sentence up to 15 years of the imprisonment for everyone that leaves out of the country for that purpose or for these causes. And we have a pending ongoing cases within the prosecution and within the judicial channels of our country. But what we have to address is, because these matters does not only require the strong hand of the rule of law and the justice. But we have also to address the root causes to that, which are making the people to join to this kind of the phenomena or the activities, which is the lack of the integration. It's about the social exclusion, about the financial gains of those people. So it's a combination of all of this and the lack of opportunities in the country. So the countries has parallel of doing the purely police intelligence work has to be committed also a part, not only dealing with the source of that, but also how to de-radicalize the people, how to open more opportunities for the people, and also goes back to the education that I raised it before, and also is a large portion of that has to deal with a proper level of education in every country. We as the country, we have taken in all the fronts necessary steps to tackle this phenomena. The response on the rule of law, on the matter of offering more opportunities to our citizens. And lately, we as the country, we have been applying in the Global Fund for the Resilience based in Geneva, which has a focus on de-radicalization of the people, particularly the ones which are in the jails, the ones which are back from the Syria or Iraq in the country, because we need to know what we are going to do with those people when they return, because it's a huge potential risk, what they will be exposing for our societies.
So education, economic opportunities, empowerment.
Yeah.
Great. My last question is, you have 3 weeks left in your term as a president, unfortunately.
And there's no better way than to close it than this way.
Now, I asked you earlier, what are you planning to do after you leave the office of the President of Kosovo?
I thought that conversation was supposed just to be between me and you.
Okay, then
anyway.
let's go back to...
Anyway, well, at the moment, Imam Hendi, I will need some break, as you can imagine, because serving on the office of the President for 5 years is not an easy job. And especially is not easy being the first woman president in our country, being the first woman president in the entire region of the southeastern part of the Europe, and by age in the entire world. And so in my job, I had to show not only 300% more, but even 3,000% more in order to be accepted at least to the certain percentage. And that kind of like not made me tired, but it should give me some time to reflect about myself, about my time in the office of the presidency. But I will definitely, no matter where I will be, and that's a message that I pass towards all of our citizens, and I try to pass internationally, is that I will be one of the strongest lobbyists of the women around, not only my country, but around the world. Because I know from my own skin how much it takes to reach to the certain position, but how much more it takes to maintain that so that you can leave the right legacy behind, not for the sake of yourself, but for the sake of the young women to follow, which there are many in the queue there. And, but also where I will, no matter where I will be working for the women's rights and from the youth rights.
Wow, this is really good. Thank you. Thank you. Now we want to open the door for questions and answers. Please stand up, tell us who you are, and be very brief to the microphone, please.
Thank you for coming, Madam President. My name is Charlie Lowe. I'm a senior in the School of Foreign Service, studying international politics. And Imam Hendi, I meant to say, when you said to come visit, I'm actually going to Kosovo for 2 years in the Peace Corps after graduation.
Wow!
So very excited to meet you. Yeah. My question is, can you speak to, well, considering the amount of population that live outside of Kosovo, the amount of Kosovars who live in Western Europe, can you speak to your concerns that they might be swept up in sort of anti-migrant sentiment that's going on in Western Europe, like the Kosovars living outside of Kosovo? Are you concerned at all that they might be swept up in what's happening in Western Europe, the anti-migrant sort of resentment that's going on? Are you concerned?
Yeah. Charlie, thank you so much. Charlie, is that it? Yeah, and ahead of time, I wish you very welcome in Kosovo, and you are coming to serve to the organization or the mission that I have put so much of efforts to personally invite them in Kosovo. And starting from last year, I think this is the second year that we have the first Peace Corps volunteers in the ground. And I am very much proud that I was able to invite the Peace Corps and to start that close partnership between not only the organization and country, but more from the American people to the people of Kosovo. Indeed, Kosovo has a quite large diaspora outside of our country, which we are very proud of having them, because only in Switzerland we have about 300,000 Kosovar Albanians. We have in Germany approximately about 200,000, in United Kingdom about 60,000. And so we have the strong diaspora outside of Kosovo, which I consider them, and every time, and here in the United States we have about 300,000, and every time I go outside of my country, I meet them in no matter in what kind of the settings, and they are the best bridge of the cooperation among our country and the country where they are physically. And but till now they have been able to conduct a different mission about our country, which was to be also our ambassadors outside of our country. And we have some excellent students, even in the Georgetown, and one of them is Teuta there sitting, that she used to be one of my interns in my office as a president. And they are our ambassadors wherever they go. They pass the message about Kosovo. But now my main concern is how to link them and to try to bring them back and to make them more look in the direction so we can see their investment coming in Kosovo, that they are the only one that knows best their own country and their own culture. And this matter of the refugee, of the immigrants that we have seen recently in the Europe or even wider to that, for us as the Kosovo, that is still very fresh and that is still very close to our hearts and to our mind, because 16 years ago, when the war has taken place in Kosovo, within less than 2 weeks' time, over 1 million Kosovo Albanians were made by force to leave the country for the purpose of the ethnic cleansing in all of the neighboring countries, towards the European countries, and all the way down here to the United States and to Canada. But one thing we have to know, that no one wants to leave their home. But sometimes we have a tendency of dealing with the consequences, not with the source of the problem. In this case, we need to deal with the source of the problem, stopping the war, stopping the conflict, and make these people the possibility to return to their homes, to the places that they never ever wanted to leave from there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I'm Chloe Krofchek. I'm a dual degree student, 4th year in the bachelor's program and 1st year in the master's program in the School of Foreign Service. Thank you so much for coming today to share powerful words about moving past violence and revenge in order to forge true peace, reconciliation, and coexistence. I have 2 related questions. First, what proportion of the Albanian population in your country would you estimate agree with your views about moving past Serbian repression and violence without needing to get even? And secondly, we know that peace has to come from both sides of a conflict. So how would you characterize leaders of the Serbian government as partners for peace? Do you think that they would agree with you about what needs to be done now to move forward? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And actually, everything what I said, not only in my speech, but also in my conversation, enjoys the highest percentage of the trust and belief from all the people of Kosovo. Because what we have gone through, it's not something that has started between the people of Kosovo, no matter Kosovo Albanians, Kosovo Serb, or other ethnic community groups in our country. What has taken place, we need just to flip the chart and to move on, to flip that page and move on. I have heard a sentence of a good friend of mine in Kosovo, and she is a nun within the Orthodox Church. She did mention a word that I'm using very often. She said, we need not to forget the past. I stopped and looked at her and I said, how do you mean? She said, for the sake of not repeating it. And that should be something that we have to be focused. And the cultural heritage, coexistence, way of living together has been one of the biggest strengths of our country, not only in the 16 years of the end of the war, but for the decades and the centuries back. And we are very much committed as a people, as institutions of our country. On the relation with our neighboring country of Serbia, the aggressor who has committed all of these crimes and the consequences that we are living today's date is. We have started the process of the dialogue 4 or 5 years ago under the facilitation of the European Union and the strong support of the United States. Several agreements has been reached so far, but not so much of the implementation in the ground, mainly for the mistakes and the faults of the Serbia, or better saying, their non-willingness to be very constructive on normalizing the relation between our countries. Kosovo has been and continues to be a strong promoter of the peace and stability and a good neighborhood relation among all of the regional countries, including the northern country of Serbia. Our main agenda is the EU and EU integration, and we will not be able to move in that direction before we finish some homework, even in the relation of the good neighborhood relation. Serbia has a lot of homework in relation to Kosovo to fulfill before they will be moving in the direction of the further integration.
Thank you very much for coming.
We have, I'm looking, and the president has other activities she has to participate in. So we have only 6 minutes for the questions and answers. After that, she wants to mingle with some of you guys. So let's be brief to the point.
Mirmanjas Yahyaga.
Wow.
My name is Anton. I'm a sophomore in the college studying neurobiology. And my parents are actually from Montenegro, so Jena Shqiptari. And
Oh my God.
I wanted to ask you, how are you going to deal with the cultural problems with Albanians being kind of psychologically damaged from all the atrocities committed in the 90s? They've kind of developed this nationalism, and it's going to be hard to... How are you going to deal with that in context of moving forward with the Serbian Kosovar dilemma?
Well, it's everything that I said earlier, that there is a huge trauma in the minds of the people. There is so much of the suffering in the minds and the hearts of our citizens that not only the 16 years of the end of the war, even more years ahead, this will definitely not make the people to go away from that. Because one day before I came here, I was in one event where we had about 70 women victims of the sexual violence. It was a mother that was raped in front of her mother and in front of her husband. where her daughter, 20 years old, was also raped. Other daughter, or 17 years old, was raped. Other daughter of 13 years old was raped. The mother, the same day, she jumped into the well and committed the suicide because she couldn't cope what she has witnessed that day. I listened to another woman that she was raped in front of her husband. Her husband was killed. She was pregnant, 6 months old, and she miscarried the child. After 8 years of the marriage, she was hardly expecting for that child. And many, many other cases that I don't have even the moral authority to ask the people to forget on this, because I will not be able to forget. Nobody will be able to forget. But we found the courage to raise ourselves above the pain and suffering and move on for the sake of future of our country and the region, because we deserve that. The young population deserves that.
Hello, hi, my name is Denya. I'm a master's student in the Science Policy and Advocacy program at Georgetown. My question to you is a bit more personal. I'm very passionate about gender inequality in the workplace, and for you to be a woman president, do you ever see your authority threatened or belittled in the workplace, not just within your own nation, but as well as an international community? I know you sort of shed light to that and how you have to always give 3,000 times more, but what are some examples and how have you tried to fix this issue and shed light to it?
Indeed, we have moved a lot, but I have to say that in the issue of the gender equality and gender representation, particularly on the women's issue, we are still far away. We are still in the 21st century, and we are still speaking and satisfying ourselves by having a woman here, or having a woman there, or having a woman in another place. This suppose not. And how right is this when you have about the half of the society are the women? In my country, we have introduced quota in our legal system, which requires about 30% of the women to be included into the political life. A process that we pushed very hard to install that in our institutional life. A process that a few years after came back, and the requirement from the European Union came to remove the quota from our legislation with a justification that that is against the human rights and equal opportunities. I had to fight for a year with the European Union to maintain the quota. I'm not a strong believer, I don't believe so much in the quota, but it's the only way that will guarantee, that will make sure that we have the quantity that leads us to the equality. And is the only way that we have some strong basis to build into that. Locally, regionally, and internationally, we have a lot of work to do. And I'm afraid for the women in this room, sometimes we, the women, are the biggest enemy of our own kind. And we should not do that. We should support each other. The women, no matter where they are, they should be the agents of change. And they should be supporting each other, no matter. Because, sorry, the boys' clubs are differently organized. I'm sorry, Mom Hendi. I warned you when you were in Kosovo.
Thank you. Last two questions.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Collier. I'm a junior in the School of Foreign Service. And I just want to applaud Kosovo on its great job in moving forward after the war and ethnic cleansing and reconciliation. And my question was, I was wondering what lessons from the Kosovo experience can be applied to other nations undergoing ethnic conflicts, attempts to break apart due to ethnic cleavages and differences in cultures.
There are many of the examples that can be taken. But one thing that we never want to wish any country around the world, what we have gone through, no other country deserves to go through. And Kosovo has been and continues to be in the heart of the Europe. The crimes that has taken place in the doorstep of the Europe, supposed not to be. And what we are seeing currently happening, not so far away from our region, in other countries, should be carefully thought what kind of the legacy and examples we are leaving. And that applies to some higher powers around the world. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Andrew Meshnik. I'm a junior in the college studying history. My question is, how do you teach children in Kosovo schools of diverse ethnicities about the 1990s? How do you talk about it? And how do you use that as a teaching tool to move forward?
Again, the Kosovo is a secular country. The faith is divided from the state. And the curriculums of all of the levels of the school, from the primary and all the way to the highest, are being done that way, that are in accordance to the Ministry of Education of Kosovo and the Bologna system of the education that tries to present the facts and the history the best way possible, based in the facts and based on the proper evidences. Thank you.
Well, this has been quite amazing. Hopefully you come back again. Well, honestly, I have to say this, that she promised me a year ago, exactly 12 months ago, to come to Georgetown and speak to you before the end of her term. So this is a president. Her Excellency knows how to be a president, knows how to keep her word and honor her promise. So give her a big hand. You know, from the dialogue we had this morning, I really believe that the way to move forward is when we are fully engaged with I say, an act of love. We love God, we love our fellow neighbors, we care, we want to coexist, we want to live with everyone. And in our room, we have Rabbi Rachel Gardner, who is the director of Jewish Life, who is here to support the president, but also this initiative and the need to empower women. I know you have been a voice, Rabbi, for women at Georgetown and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Something came out so many times in the last hour is hope. Keep hope alive. With faith, with hope, we will make it happen. I call it back to the future. How do we go back to learn from the past in order to move forward? How do we, as the Quran says, I give you narratives so that you may learn from them, so that you may learn to move forward in the future. We need to keep hope alive. We need to keep that faith alive. We need to commit ourselves to a better future for all of us. Again, you know, I work with campus ministry. I'm the director of Muslim Life, and campus ministry at Georgetown University is committed to interreligious dialogue, is committed to making sure that whoever we are, whether we are Jews, Christians, or Muslims, Catholics, or Protestant, or Orthodox, Buddhists, or Hindu, or Sikh, or any religious community, we are all important and relevant. and you use this term, have room around the table. Amazing analogy that in Kosovo you made sure that everyone has room around the table. We try to do that here at Georgetown University, and this has to be the case everywhere in the world, where no one is left out, regardless of their ethnicity, their religious perspectives, or the way they understand life. Everyone should have a room around the table. And for me, at the end of the day, we hope that the president will carry this mandate everywhere she goes, because she has been a true voice of justice, social justice, political justice, economic justice, environmental justice. And again, my God, we end the year with the best speaker on the need to empower our ummah, empower our women, empower the world. After all, the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be with him, says, "An-nisa'u shaqa'iqur rijal," that women are the partners of men. So do not walk in front of me, I will not follow. Do not walk behind me, I will not lead. Instead, walk by my side and let us be partners. That is what Islam teaches, and I hope Fox News takes that message seriously and advocates it, because that is a true message of Islam, that is a true message of faith and of justice. Madam President, thank you again for your representation, for your amazing ability to engage our students intellectually, emotionally, but also spiritually. So give her a big hand again. If you allow me, on behalf of the President, Jack Jahjaga, who was not able to be here, to personally welcome you, and on behalf of our students, our faculty and staff, on behalf of everyone, accept this gift from Georgetown University.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Imam. Thank you.
The Georgetown logo. And
Yeah, it's typical Georgetown. It will
typical
be always
Georgetown.
with me. Will be totally. And Imam Hendi, thank you so much. And indeed, I promised you last year when you were in my office that before I end my mandate, I will definitely be at your class and be with your students. That is the promise of women, that we fulfill the promises. And for me, it has been really a pleasure to spend some time with you, and especially spend time with the students, that I was able to give you an overall picture of Kosovo, where we have been, where we are, and where we are heading as a state. So thank you very much.